Hey, hello everyone. A very warm welcome to today's live webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. My name is Himanshi, and today's webinar is titled Accelerate Your Redis Modernization Journey with QMigrator. In this session, we'll focus on how organizations can seamlessly migrate to Azure Managed Redis, leveraging QMigrator along with expert guidance from Redis and Quadrant Technologies. So, before we begin, let me quickly introduce our speakers. We have Harish Naganuri. He is QMigrator architect. We have Narendra, and we have Roy, who is senior specialist solution architect for AMR. Yeah, so we are so excited to have such a strong panel with us today, and we'll also be having a question and answer session in the end. So, yeah, let's get the ball rolling. Narendra, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Mansi. So yeah, let's start with a quick overview of Quadrant Technologies. So Quadrant brings our 15 year of industry experience, supported by a strong team of more than 3,000 professionals, including 1,000 plus certified experts delivering the service across the 10 plus countries. What truly stand out is our 100% retention rate, which reflects our long-term trust, our customer placing us. So we operate on 24 by 7 project and support model, ensuring the continuous delivery and reliability for mission critical systems. Over the years, our growth culture have been widely recognized, from being ranked among the best technologies companies to work for and to multiple appearances on Deloitte's Fast 500 list, INC 5000 list, and CPR ranking as well. And Quadrant is also partnered with the Google Cloud, AWS, and Microsoft. All these position Quadrant as a trusted partner for large-scale cloud data and modernization initiatives. So, yeah. So we are offering different services, different areas. So to start with the cloud consultancy, we are covering the cloud native designs, migrations, observability, security implementation, and automation using the intelligence AIs and bots. On application sides, we provide different services, including the application development and testings, spanning web and mobile applications, UI UX, accessibility, and content management systems. To complete these, we have DevOps security and site reliability engineer (SRE), where we are focused on CI/CD automation, infra build out, and always on operational supports. We also enable our business user through Power BI platforms, including Power Apps, Power Automate, and Copilot Studios. In our infra services, we ensure reliable operation through our data center management, enterprise system management, service desk operations, and the managed securities. For data-driven enterprises, our data and analytics practice cover data migrations, data pipelines, analytics models, reporting, and data warehouse. And in parallel, we have cybersecurity security service as well, where we are addressing the risk assessment, compliance, identity and access management, SOC operations. And finally, we also invest in AI/ML services and quality assurance that ensure our innovations is delivered in at a scale, reliability, and quality at a core. Yeah, yeah, over to you.
Yes, this is me. Thank you for putting me on the spotlight. Just quickly about me. So I'm Roy. I am an Azure Managed Redis architect for Redis. Before this, I actually worked for Microsoft. I was part of the global black belt team, where I also focused on AMR. I decided I needed a little bit of a change. So luckily enough, I found my role at Redis, only changing companies, not changing technologies. And I quickly want to talk a little bit about Redis. So Redis is one of the most popular in-memory database. So what we do is everything in memory, generating super fast pace, low latency, high resiliency. And Redis was created back in 2009 as an open source project. That project still exists. But we also saw that our customers were looking into more data capabilities than just the caching, traditional caching use cases. So this is why we have created Redis Enterprise to support our customers, giving them more capabilities, better performance, and basically switching from a traditional caching solution to a real-time data platform. And right now, if we actually look, Redis is one of the world's most popular databases. If we only look at the Docker pools, so basically you have a Kubernetes cluster, you want to run Redis in there, you can do a Docker pool. Over 10 billion pools is what we have. So it started off in 2009, but we were founded in 2011, and obviously we're a big company right now, supporting the open source project, but also supporting the Redis Enterprise for our customers. I think what is very important is when you think about Redis, think about speed, think about performance, think about resiliency, and we want to push those boundaries of a real-time database. And we want to include all those other capabilities. So later on, I will also talk a little bit about AI capabilities, for example, that you can handle with Redis, right? So that's a little bit about Redis and what we do and what we stand for. So yeah.
Roy, you can continue here.
Okay. Sorry, I thought that somebody else was doing that. Sorry for that. So basically, about 10 years ago, Redis and Microsoft built a solution together, which is called Azure Cache for Redis, or short ACR. When we talk about ACR, we're talking about Azure Cache for Redis. And about 2.5 years ago, Microsoft Redis joined forces again, and we decided we need to revamp this. We need to do better for our customers. So right now, Azure Cache for Redis is still a service on Azure that you can deploy as a managed solution, but it will be deprecated. There is a retirement notice, and I just quickly want to talk you through that. So basically, the way we look at Azure Cache for Redis comes with a couple of SKUs. So you have basic, standard, and premium. And those SKUs, if you select those are based on Redis open source. And then we have also the enterprise SKU, which is fully based on Redis Enterprise, which has a lot more data capabilities, performance, and stuff that I just talked about. Now we have two different dates for that, but basically, if we look at the dates for September 30, 2028, that is for basic, standard, and premium. And for the enterprise SKU, it's the 1st of April 2027, so a little bit earlier. There's another date that is kind of important that I want you guys to know. So on the 1st of October of this year, customers who are using Azure Cache for Redis are not able to deploy a new instance. Your current instances that you already have deployed will still be supported, no worries. But if you think about a DevOps type of mentality, and maybe you have a stateless type of cache, normally what we see a lot of customers do, when something happens with their instance, like a Azure Cache for Redis standard instance, they basically just destroy it and create a new one, and within a couple of minutes they're up and running. From October 1st, 2027, for basic, standard, and premium, you cannot do this anymore because you are not allowed to deploy a new instance. For the enterprise SKUs, it's April 1st this year. So that's a little bit of a date that I think is important as well. Everything that you have today will be supported until that deprecation notice. But we do encourage customers to move earlier. And there are a couple of reasons why we think it's a good idea to move from Azure Cache for Redis to AMR. So if you look at the new servers, we basically increased the performance. If you compare Azure Cache for Redis to Azure Managed Redis, which is the new name of the service, we decreased the price. It's fully built on Redis Enterprise, giving you all the capabilities. And obviously the migration, there are a couple of things to think about, but we can help, we can support together with Quadrant, whatever it is that you need to basically give you the better performance for a lower price point with more capabilities as soon as possible. So Azure Managed Redis, I already talked about this. So we had Azure Cache for Redis. It's going to be deprecated. AMR is basically the new service. So it's fully first party, built together with Microsoft and Redis, but it lives within the Azure ecosystem and it's considered a first party service on Azure. It's a fully managed service, so this means that we take care of a lot of operational overhead for you. So, for example, security or automatic scaling, or if you want to build an active geo replication that's built into the service, and we will take care underneath the hood that it is performing, that it is resilient, that it is working. What we've done as well, compared to the older servers, is that every SKU that you're now going to choose from Azure Managed Redis is fully built on top of Redis Enterprise. So you don't only have the caching capabilities, but you can do Redis search or Redis JSON, or if you need a pub sub mechanism that's built in, or even if you need specific AI capabilities, fully integrated, fully built in. So another aspect is what we thought about is, hey, we want to make this as enterprise as possible for our customers. So it comes with high availability. So basically, what you can do is when you deploy an AMR instance, you can say, hey, this cluster needs to be high available, and we will take care of that. You don't need to do anything around that. We will make sure that there are multiple nodes that just works out of the box. And also that active geo replication. And if you actually set this up, so basically have your AMR instance in one Azure region and have another AMR instance in another Azure region, we'll make sure that there is a low latency, near real-time synchronization between those two instances, right? And you can scale that up all the way up to 5 different regions. But we also increase the security capabilities. So we support managed identities, for example, and it's integrated within Entra ID. And another thing which we see is very important for a lot of our customers, and where we spend a lot of time together with Microsoft to build this out, is the deep integration with the Azure ecosystem. So it's integrated with a lot of different services that we talk about a little bit later, and more to come as well. We're constantly working together to make sure that Azure Managed Redis is fully integrated within that Azure ecosystem. So why Microsoft recommends AMR? I think one of the key components is that enterprise-grade resiliency. It's also the simplified management. So like I said, not needing to worry about, hey, how do I do my performance optimization? Or, hey, the security patch needs to be dealt with. Or, hey, we need to scale up horizontally or vertically. All those aspects, all those operations, and that simplified management is something that our customers are leveraging when they are choosing for AMR. The scaling and the performance is also really, really interesting. So let's say that you have deployed an AMR instance, and let's say that you need more performance. So you can go to a different SKU. And we will talk about some of the SKUs and stuff like that later on. But then you can set up auto scaling or manual scaling. And basically underneath the hood, we will take care of that scaling mechanism. And within a couple of minutes, you will have more performance. But what happens if your in-memory data store gets full? You can scale that up as well. You can jump to a higher in-memory SKU. And this is all automatically done. We will take care of that, or you basically set the parameters for that scaling mechanisms. And also the Azure roadmap. So constantly we are working together with Microsoft to identify any potential gaps that we have. So also for you as customers, if you see anything, let us know. We're more than happy to talk to you about it, and also connect with engineering to make sure that it is included within the bigger Azure roadmap and that there is full alignment. And that enterprise-grade resiliency. If you build a high available AMR cluster, we're talking about 4 nines. If you're doing active geo replication, we're talking about 5 nines SLA. So if you think about, and these numbers are very important for your mission critical applications, for example, AMR is a right fit for that. And I already quickly talked about this, but just to go a little bit of a level deeper. So because AMR is a fully first-party service, it works really well with, for example, all the application and compute services that Microsoft has. So maybe you're running your applications on app services or container apps or AKS on virtual machines, and you basically want to increase the performance of that application. This is something where you can use AMR for, and you can easily connect those two services via the Azure networking. But also think about maybe some of the databases services that you already are running in Azure. And if that database is potentially a bottleneck in some case or form, you can add AMR to that specific instance, and it works perfectly fine with any of the other data services. And we can do things with RDI, and we can do synchronization and all kinds of different things. But also think about messaging and streaming. Perfectly works fine. The API and Edge, maybe you have an API management solution and you want to do API caching. Or maybe you're building a geo replicated global distributed application and you want to do something with Azure Front Door or Global Traffic Manager and have AMR behind that with the different regions. So this is all fully integrated. So even if you're already using those services, you can add AMR to that architecture, or when you're building specific applications, like AMR could be a good fit. And then the AI space. So we do see more and more integration from AMR together with AI. So one of the things, for example, that you can do is now integrated with AI Foundry, where you can select AMR as a memory store for agentic agents, for example. It works perfectly fine with Azure OpenAI or using the embeddings model, combination together with Azure AI Search for your vector database, but then using AMR as an in-memory vector database to maybe do something semantic caching, which we will talk about a little bit later. So as you can see, this is fully integrated, and we have integrated with Azure Monitoring, and we have integrated with all the different capabilities. If you're missing something, once again, let us know. More than happy to walk you through that. And if we actually miss something, we will talk with engineering to make that happen. So why this change? And I think this has a lot to do with the demand for applications, right? We do see that performance becomes more and more and more important. We do see that AMR or the applications that our joint customers are developing, they need to have a global reach. They need to have a high SLA. They need to have zero downtime. These are the expectations of our customers. And what we saw was that with Azure Cache for Redis, because that was based on open source for the basics and the premium, we were not able to give all those modern day real-time data platform capabilities to our customers. We also saw that the price point and stuff like that, we needed to do a little bit better. So these are a couple of the main reasons why we said, hey, we need to change. We need to do better for our customers. And we want to make sure we are aligned with the requirements of our customers. And right now, for now and the future, Azure Managed Redis is the strategic replacement. Another thing as well that I quickly want to highlight here, because this was different in the older service. In the older service, depending on which capability you needed, so for example, VNet integration, you needed to go to a specific tier. What we're trying to do with AMR is basically give you all the capabilities across all the different tiers, right? So this will basically also allow you to really right size the right AMR instance based on the need of your workload and not based on the need of specific functionalities. So I think all those changes together makes this a really enterprise-ready, scalable, high secure platform for our customers to use. Okay, so one of the things that I talked about was integration with AI workflows, right? So I quickly want to talk about semantic caching and what we can do in that space that will help you when you are building specific AI applications. So when you think about it, when you are using an LLM, so for example, take Azure OpenAI, and your users are putting in a prompt, they're asking a question to a specific LLM. So if I'm asking a specific question, like what temperature is it today, it will go to the LLM and it basically will generate the best potential answer, which will cost money because it's using tokens, and it gives me the answer back. And now Himanshi, for example, asks the same question 5 minutes later. same aspect happens, right? So the prompt goes to the LLM does the generation and gives the answer back. Now, what we are doing with AMR and with the semantic caching is basically that we're going to use AMR as a vector database in memory. So basically, what happens in this scenario is the following thing. I'm going to ask, what is the temperature today? And I'm going to get the specific answer back. What will happen is that we will generate embeddings of that specific prompt. We will check if that answer is already within the AMR instance. And we check this not only on exact text, but we check this on meaning, on semantic meaning, if you will. And if that is in the cache, I don't specifically need to hit the LLM. I can just retrieve the answer from AMR. Obviously, if there is a miss and the answer is not in the AMR instance, it will basically call the LLM for a response, get that, embed that, and put that in the AMR instance. Now, two things are very, very important around this when you implement this specifically. If I ask something, what is the temperature today? And Himanshu is looking basically for the same answer, but he writes the question a little bit different. Or I make potentially a spelling mistake or whatever. We're all still looking for the same answer. So there's a high similarity. I don't want to hit that LLM all the same time. And this is where that semantic caching really comes into play to give you those answers way quicker. Because we all know when we talk to an LLM and we get a response back, compared to, hey, I'm getting an answer back from AMR, we're talking about major performance increase, a way faster response, giving your customers a better experience. But on the other hand side, for those answers that are already being generated by the LLM and have been stored within the vector database AMR, you don't need to use the LLM anymore. So it's going to reduce the cost for your application as well. And we also see a very high throughput because obviously within AMR and within Redis, we do everything in memory. So implementing a strategy like this, and we do this together with, for example, Redis VL, which is our library for AI capabilities, where developers can easily include this within their application without needing to write 10,000s of different lines and configuration. It's very easy to implement this, get a better performance, and get a lower cost for the use of LLMs.
So this slide really summarizes why Microsoft is asking customers to move from Azure Cache for Redis to Azure Managed Redis. So let's walk through it in very simple terms. Starting with the platform model, Azure Cache for Redis is based on the more traditional or the legacy Redis model. It works well, but it was designed earlier where the cloud workloads like the Azure Managed Redis, on the other hand, is built and Redis Enterprise, which is designed for the ground up the enterprise scale and like the modern cloud patterns. When we look the scalability, ACR is tied bound. That means performance is tightly linked to the SKU you choose, and the scaling that means moving up ties. With AMR, scaling is more enterprise oriented, giving much better flexibility for high traffic and unpredictable workloads. Throughout this, uh, another major difference is like with ACR is limited with time. With AMR, Microsoft is positioning up to 15 times higher throughput, which becomes very important for APIs, microservices, and AI-driven applications. Cost is also closely tied to this. With ACR, cost can increase significantly. You can scale with AMR because of better resource utilization. Like the customer often see lower cost and the same memory tire, especially for high throughput workloads. Of course, this is the workload depend on. We always validate this during the migration plans. Another key factor ACR provides while AMR is designed with the enterprise grade resilience, making it better suited for the machines for the critical applications.
Yeah, so one of the things I just talked about the semantic caching, which is one of the capabilities that AMR has, but we can actually help with a lot of different challenges that we see when customers are building AI applications. So performance, so think about query time latency, your uptime, reliability, potential surges in usage and stuff like that. These are all challenges that AMR is really well suited to handle for you. And also the cost aspect, right? I already talked about how we can potentially reduce the usage of specific LLMs if we already have the answers in our systems. So this is going to generate a lower price point while giving the same type of experience. But also think about expensive context window and block that off, or do like server sprawls, all those different challenges. AMR can help and support you with it. And we do see that personalization is also a very big topic. What about localization? Maybe we need to hit another different LLM. What about context injection? What about managing user sessions and think about memory for those specific agents and stuff like that? So when you are starting building AI applications, or you already are building AI applications, these are often a couple of those aspects where customers are like, oh, okay, we need to think about this. We need to solve this. AMR can support you across this board by using that technology so that you can reduce those challenges when you are implementing AI applications. So the performance and cost benefits. So there are a couple of things that you potentially can think about. So roughly we see when you are comparing Azure Cache for Redis to AMR, we see up to a 50 times higher throughput. So when you think about this, you have an Azure Cache for Redis instance that gives you a specific performance. You now go to AMR, it has the same data set, has the same everything, but that AMR instance, if you do a one-for-one like, is going to have higher performance. So maybe we can go down a specific tier that's going to reduce your cost, right? So we do, with the new architecture that we have built, we have optimized the resource utilization, and we have also significantly reduced the cost as the same memory type of tier. So who doesn't want that, right? Better performance, lower cost. There's another thing that you can do with AMR as well, which is going to be rolled out in the next couple of weeks for all the different regions where we are here. And basically what we say is you can leverage potentially reserved instances to even reduce the cost further down, right? And when you think about having a better performance for your high traffic apps, this will increase that experience for our customers, right? So a couple of things. Obviously, security is important. Reliability is very important, especially for your production, for your mission critical type of workloads. So a couple of things that we have done. Obviously, an enterprise SLA, like I said, 5 times if you do an active geo-replication. And when you deploy an active geo-replication, the way you do this is very straightforward and easy to do. I'm basically going to spin up a new AMR instance. And while I'm deploying that AMR instance, I'm going to say, hey, I want to have a replica in this specific region. And that's the only thing you need to configure, getting 5 nines SLA. Then AMR also comes with a high availability capability. So when you deploy an AMR instance, you can say, hey, I want to have high availability enabled. And basically what we do in the background, we will make sure that there are at least 2 instances running across availability zones in a specific Azure region, giving you 5 nines, but also when you scale up or you scale down or something is happening, we will make sure that your cluster is reachable and it's high available. We do have strong isolation because AMR is really built for physical isolation. So this gives you the strongest potential isolation that you have. Because the AMR instances are really easy to deploy, they have a low price point, you can easily think about, hey, I have an application over here, I'm going to put my AMR instance close to that, I have another application over here, I'm going to put it over there, giving you that strong isolation. The monitoring aspect, so it's fully integrated with Azure Monitoring, and obviously from Azure Monitoring, you have log analytics and all those different aspects. But also the SRE team is highly monitoring your environment, and they will step in if something goes wrong. Now, it's not that they can access your data and they can read your data and stuff like that, but they can do specific actions towards your cluster if something happens. So fully embedded for user monitoring, but we are also monitoring this together with Microsoft to make sure that you have the best reliability that you potentially have. Secure networking is also one of the capabilities. So you can either choose to have a public endpoint, but we do see a lot of customers are looking at a private type of environment. So that's something that you can set up, fully supported with TLS. And you can think about potentially an hub spoke model where you have a spoke with AMR and your application. You have a security hub. Your application and the AMR instance is completely private, can only be accessed through a private connection. And if that needs to go out or customers needs to go in, you have that security hub with potential a firewall or application gateway or anything that you have. And basically that takes care of all the security aspects. So you don't need to have public endpoints anymore. And obviously fully designed for mission critical workloads. Because of that high availability, the persistence, the active geo replication, the security aspects that we have included, and that we are monitoring that environment 24/7 and supporting you with that proactively. I truly believe that AMR is fully enterprise ready and for those mission critical workloads. Yeah. So the Azure ecosystem integration. So fully integrated with Azure monitoring and log analytics. So if you are working within Azure, we do see a lot of customers using Azure monitoring and log analytics to basically monitor their environment and do some analysis around the logs and stuff like that. But we have also integrated this with Azure API management. So you can have Azure API management as your API management layer, and you can have AMR behind that for API caching, for example. And it also comes with the native Azure governance. So if something goes wrong or you need help or support, you can call Microsoft or file a support ticket, right? And what we actually do in the background as well is that we basically work together with Microsoft to solve your specific support case. But Microsoft Azure is also one of the most trusted clouds in the world. They have the most compliancy, the most offers around that. And because AMR is fully first party and a first class citizen within Azure, that counts towards AMR as well. And like I already explained, but the integration with Azure OpenAI is easily done, enabling those AI workloads in combination with AMR. Now we have the integration with AI Foundry where you can just basically say, hey, I need a memory store, let me use AMR specifically for that. We've also integrated, for example, with the agent framework, the Microsoft agent framework that was just announced. So that's basically a combination of semantic kernel and AutoGen together to orchestrate and build potential AI agents. AMR also perfectly works fine with that. So you do see that enterprise ecosystem integration is really, really there. Azure policies and a couple of other ones are also fully integrated, and all these standard aspects that you can expect from a first-party service is within the AMR instance as well.
Yeah, now that we have discussed like the Azure managed Redis is better from a performance and the cost perspective, the next big question is customers usually ask is like, is this migration is risky? And the answer is no. It's designed to be safe and flexible. First, there is no forced immediate migration. Microsoft is not asking customers to shut down anything down or rush. You're exciting Azure Cache for the Redis instance continue to run, and migration can happen on your timeline aligned with your business priorities. Second, there are multiple migration approaches, which means this is not only one size fits all move. Depending on the workload, we can choose different strategies for simple cutovers, for low risk catches to more controlled approaches for the critical applications. One of the most important assurance here is that rollback is always available. Until the final cutover is complete, your original ACR instance remains intact. If anything does not have as expected, switching back it straightforward. This is the key reason why customers can migrate with confidence. And because of all these, like the business continuity is assured, end user does not see outages and application behavior remains consistent throughout the transition. Now let's talk briefly about how actually approaches the migration step by step. This the first step here is inventory existing ACR workloads. We identify the Redis is used, or whether it's simple uh, like the caching sessions, APIs, and high throughput services, and understand traffic patterns and usage. Next, we classify workloads by criticality. Not everything needs to be moved at once. Non-critical or the cache aside workloads usually move first, while the business criticality systems are handled later with more controlled strategies. Based on this, we choose like the appropriate Azure Managed Redis tier, not just matching memory, but aligning throughput and the performance retirement properly. Finally, we plan a phased migration. This allows teams to migrate gradually, validate the performance and cost benefits, and only then proceed with the critical workloads. The key message across both these slides is simple. The migration is planned, reversible, designed to protect your business while modernizing your platform.
Yeah, so we talked about all the SCR to AMR, but how do we migrate those, right? So for that we have a QMigrator, which is a specialized migration tool and accelerator developed by Quadrant itself. So it what it does is it simplify and automate your complex migration initiatives. It's designed to move data, databases, and applications as well from wide variety of sources to different target. For example, the Oracle to Postgres, and obviously the Azure Cache Redis to AMR, like that. So instead of treating the migration as a one-time data copy, QMigrator is a control automated and validated transformation journey, which also reduce the risk while you are getting predictable outcome from the QMigrator. Importantly, it's aligned perfectly with your modern cloud migration strategy, including application and infrastructure modernizations. Yeah. So, what are the capabilities that QMigrate provides? So, it's built on a set of powerful enterprise grade capabilities. So, if we start with assessment, so it has AI integrated assessment, which you can use with the SaaS and identify the performance bottleneck, track down your migration progress, and the continuous tuning your process. Under the hood, QMigrator is run on a scalable Kubernetes architecture, so it's allow you to efficiently handle the migrations of various size and complexities. Uh, what's truly uh, what's truly reduced the risk is comprehensive testing framework, which is combining automated code conversion with functional and performance testing of your platform, ensuring the accuracy, data integrity, and the application behavior after the migrations. It's also support the broad migration scenario for both homogeneous and heterogeneous migration, meaning it can move data between similar technology or entirely different technologies, and obviously capable of app modernizations as well.
Hello, everyone. This demo is to show the Redis migration where the source is Redis and the target is Azure Managed Redis. We already have the servers established with data, and I have opened the two connections with Redis CLI to check. This is the source.
Yeah, sorry for the demo, but we have after we will show you the demo as well. But yeah, we have few slides to cover. So for the key benefits, QMigrator is having few measurable benefits. So it's deliver a significantly faster timeline, completing the migration up to 70% faster than your traditional methods. Secondly, organization can achieve a substantial cost saving up to 60% reduction in migration cost and 80% in infrastructure cost to migrating to Azure. It also designed for a high volume data volume, and it's supporting the massive transfer. For example, we have achieved the 10 terabyte per day for Oracle to Postgres migration as well. And finally, up to 80% automated code conversion. That QMigrator drastically reduce the manual efforts, lower the risk, and allow teams to focus on optimization rather than reworking. So, why QMigrator for ACR to AMR, right? So, when it comes to migration, we have some advantages. So, to align with Microsoft's announced timeline, right, for retirement for September 28 of Azure Cache Redis. Uh, so, QMigrator provides a clearly defined migration and modernization path, which is mapped directly to Azure's long-term roadmap. It assists the complexity by providing the deep visibility and control throughout your migration process, ensuring predictable outcome, not only to migrate, but also to optimize future proof and scale your Redis environment confidently on the Azure. By moving to AMR through QMigrator, it's unlock the AI-driven application to use it with the OpenAI, as we discussed few advantages like semantic caching, vector knowledge store, and agentic memory store as well, which will help you to reduce the latency and token cost of AIs. Yeah, now let's see the demo. Yeah.
In the source, we have 7,000. Hello, everyone. This demo is to show the Redis migration where the source is Redis and the target is Azure Managed Redis. We already have the servers established with data, and I have opened the two connections with Redis CLI to check. This is the source. In the source, we have 7,038 records and one search index with the search module installed. If we see in the Azure Redis, we have 0 data and 0 indexes. Here we are on QMigrator homepage. Before starting the migration, we have to set up the connections. In the connection screen, we can set up the database source and target. I have already added the source database server and the target database to Azure Redis. You can add the source and target by clicking Add Source. Then, give the connection name, host, port, database, username, password, and SSL. You can test and add the record to the connection. Now, let's start with the data migration. On screen, go to the E2E migration page. This E2E migration consists of an assessment and migrating the data. Here, we will select the source connection, database as data load type, and the target is Azure Managed Redis. We have 3 types of operation scan, which is the initial load. Live is initial plus CDC, and live only is only CDC mode, so let's have the initial load first. Let's give the request CPU, limit CPU for migrating resource constraints. By checking this, the feature includes a search index from source to export and load to the target Redis database as well. Once we click on Execute, it will start the execution with the initial load. We can see the status here. The run ID 10 is started. It's initialized as of now. It will take some time to have the assessment report generated. As you can see, it's completed. Here, pre-extraction is completed, meaning the assessment report has been generated. To see the assessment report, click on the report section, select extraction, run ID 10, and download the report. Let's review the Excel report. We can see the summary. We have 7,038 key records, and 4 MB of memory is being used by data. 1 is a search index, and 1 module detected in Redis is a search module. Here we have key space detail, and a list of data by type, and module-wise, how many counts are present. Let's see the execution status and log as well. This is the migration log, which will show how much migration has been completed or if any error present. As the log suggested, it started the migrations, and you can see the 100% migration completed. Here, the verification step is also initialized, with 7,038 out of 7,038 record has been migrated and compared. Additionally, one search index has also been exported. As we can see, the code for index here. Let's review the target side now. By seeing the database size, we can see 7,038 records. Let's verify the search index as well. And that index is also created. Here initial has been completed. Now let's review the CDC and see if the data is getting synced. This time, we will select the live only, which is only the CDC migration. Messages says execution has started. Now, on a source database, let's try to add a few records and see if the target is able to capture. I have inserted a new record in the source. Now let's see the database size. It shows the 7,039 records now. On the target side, a CDC record has been transferred successfully. Let's delete the record and see getting deleted on the target. We again see the DB size has been reduced by one record, confirming the deletion operation too. This is all about this Redis migration with QMigrator. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's all about the demo. Now, what are the next steps? So, next steps is like if you are planning to move ACR to AMR, so first phase will be your no-cost POC, which means there will be no financial commitment from the organization. The efforts is funded by Microsoft and executed by Quadrant in collaboration with Redis and AMR solution team. So during this phase, Quadrant will work with you to define the POC scope and execute it safely with a low risk mechanism from ICR to AMR migrations. Once the POC is completed, yeah, yeah. So once POC is completed, we can move to phase two, which is like basically we will share you the detailed outcome, observations, and technical findings. Any if you have any operational impact, uh, and based on the insights, we will work with you to decide whether to proceed, and if so, to define the scope and timeline for a full migrations, um, which is typically to lay out the phase migration roadmap and based on your like business priorities. And finally, in phase three, which is optional and totally driven by POC results, if your organization is satisfied, then Quadrant will execute production migration based on your priority and criticality. So, which will consider like downtime requirement, validations, rollback strategies, and cost optimization post migrations as well. Yeah, I think we can take up the questions from the audience.
Yes. Okay, let me just go because I answered a couple of questions in the chat already. So Robert is asking, how does Redis support revenue growth strategies? So it depends a little bit on how you think about that. Is that something from an internal perspective, or is that something from a partner perspective? So if you can drop that in the chat, Robert, then we can definitely have that. Joshua is asking, how does modernization reduce operational and financial risk? So I can start off, and if you have anything to add for my co-presenters, please do that. So I do think that how does modernization reduce operational and financial risk? So one of the things is switching from Azure Cache for Redis, or just doing application modernization in general in combination with AMR, that operational risk is way lower because we will take care of a lot of different things, right? So instead of keeping the lights on and instead of focusing on that operational overhead, we will do this for you, and you can spend that time on modernizing and creating better business outcomes, right? And this also then directly impacts the total cost of ownership. If you think about it, if you can spend less time on keeping the lights on and spend more time on the business and what the business needs and how to evolve from an IT perspective from that, this probably will increase financial aspects as well. Anything to add? No? Okay. For Quadrant, so how does QMigrator reduce dependency on manual migration processes?
Yeah, so as we discussed, like so you basically in manual process you would yourself do the assessment and use the different tool to have migration to be completed, right? So in QMigrator we have all automated process, which is end-to-end process as you seen in demo. Basically you just adding the connection of the source, which is Azure Cast for Redis, and the target is AMR, and you just have to select a few options, and it will backend it will handle the migration process entirely, which is include the initial load as well as the CDCS itself, right? So it's all in a place. You can see the reports, logs, and yeah, basically you don't have to search through each and every bit. So that's how it's reduced the manual efforts as well. And yeah, I think for Tracy as well, how does it reduce the project complexity and risk? So yeah, as I mentioned, it's a reduce the manual effort. So obviously it's like you will have automated process. You will not have face any risk in the downtime, which is like CDC supports as well is there. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. So we answered in the chat the modernization, improve resource utilization. How does the data encryption support compliance requirements? So I answered that as well. How does QMigrator minimize downtime and security exposure? Yes.
So yeah, as we said, the QMigrator will have the different options. Like you can have initial load and then CDC. So in that CDC, you don't have to switch off any infrastructure. Basically, it's uh, key space enablement, and then after it will capture your changes from one source to it will replicate directly to AMR. So there will be no downtime in that. In the cutover process, there will be a minimal downtime while you are switching from application connection from Azure KSA to your AMR connections. So yeah.
Cool. Nice. What long-term security benefits comes from Redis modernization? I could take a step at that. So when you are looking at AMR and you're implementing this, so that specific data, we have built in all kinds of security compliancy aspects, and we're evolving that every single time. So if you actually also look at the roadmap, some other security aspects, features are coming out. But another thing, if you think about more long-term security benefits by adding AMR to your instance, one of the things, for example, is that we have an MCP for Redis, where you can actually build an AI application to monitor and do specific aspects from a security within that AMR instance. You can actually combine this together with the Azure MCP and the Redis MCP to have a full-fledged AI security observability and potentially action aspect. So also from a long-term perspective, what we will see with potentially AMR is that we will include new security efforts, and as that world is changing, obviously that will be part of AMR as well. And then everything that Azure in general do, AMR is underneath that. Harris, Neandra, anything to add?
Yeah, we are good.
Okay, cool. So fintech, I answered that in the chat. Then handle extreme data growth without creating cost or scalability, answer that as well. Then there is, how does Redis and QMigrator help enterprise future-proof their data infrastructure?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for this, like So Redis, obviously they have their different models as well. They have AMR, and about security, they have the IAM access. So you can enable in person, like per person accessibility, which is like in Azure Cache for Redis, there was like ACL concept, but I think in for AMR there is IAM, so that will help you to natively integrate Azure resources to access IAM access. And QMigrator, basically it's help you to migrate the data. And a security point of view, I would say you can have SSL connections and backend, like it will be totally private, and within your network it will transfer your data, so it won't be any connectivity to internet or like things.
Awesome. Cool. There was another question: how Redis and QMigrator support live or near zero downtime migration?
Yeah, I think this one is already answered. So yeah, basically we have a CDC option, so you can enable that will replicate your source to target. While switching, like cutover process, while switching from your older connection to new connection, there will be a downtime. But it's live CDC will be supported. So yeah, there will be like millisecond replication from search source to target. So
Makes sense. Okay. What performance monitoring strategies should be implemented post migration? So a couple of things. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Post migration, establish baseline performance and the metrics, and defines like the SLOs and the latency, like throughput and the error rates. It will mostly like the monitor the key Redis metrics such as the memory usage, cache hit ratio, and client connections and the operations per second. So they track like the latency using like the P95 or like the P99 metrics, and the Redis where it will Redis slow logs to quickly identify the performance bottlenecks, continuously monitoring the replications of the health, persistence, and the performance, and where you can easily find out the failover events to make and ensure like the stability, and using like the dashboards and the alerts to correlate with the Redis metrics with the application and the infrastructure performance. Yeah. Do you want to add something, Lloyd?
No, that's spot on. That's perfect indeed. Look at those specific performance metrics. The auto scaling capability is also something that you can implement to make sure that if something is not working correctly, or you don't have the right performance or the right in-memory storage, that it will be automatically scaled out. And then all the things you said with perfect. Yeah, cool. I think we have time for one more question because we have 1 minute. How will AI-driven application increase Redis business value? So when you are implementing Redis AMR, this will give a benefit for AI applications and also for your developers, because we have that Redis VL. So it's very easy for developers to use that library and use specific components to really quickly build out, from a data perspective, those AI capabilities that you're looking for. So potentially memory storage for AI agents, the vector database, and all those type of capabilities. What I also do think is, from an AI perspective, obviously we were used to having a longer response time with AI. And I think if you're implementing the Redis technology within your application AI stack, this will drastically increase the performance, therefore giving you a better view for your customers, right? We all know that for now, a couple of seconds to wait for a response is fine, but obviously that's going to change with the models getting smaller, better, etc., and then implementing Redis as well. So those are a couple of aspects that are on the technology front, but that's going to increase the business value for your company, giving a better experience to your users. Yandra, do you want to do the close up real quick?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining, and yeah, that's all. Yeah,
Cool.
we'll end this. Yeah.
Thanks everyone. And if there's anything, feel free to ping us.
Yes, feel free to reach out. Yeah.